Hello, Mike.
How are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just, I got wrapped up in some editing there. I lost time, and that's what happened.
Hey, you know, when you're in the zone, you're in the zone.
You're in the zone. Yeah, but I got to say, I'm taking your advice very seriously today.
Uh-oh. How, I give a lot of advice, so they're going to have to kind of freshen me up.
If there's any doubt between whether or not you should work out or shouldn't work out the week of the race, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah,
something along that line.
That's a pretty steadfast rule. Yep, steadfast rule. What's going on?
Oh, so I'm being lazy. No, I'm just working. I'm still recovering from that swim, man.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, I've had some other workouts, you know. I don't want to give too much away, but I've been hammering it. I've been doing a few workouts since the swim, and but no, I feel like I'm on the edge. So I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. I'm gonna take Friday off, and then I'm gonna do a little run through on Saturday, and we'll be good to go.
Hey, that sounds like a good plan to me.
You think so? I kind of disagree with that 100%.
Oh, right. Are you trying to include some combative radio today?
Yes, we've had a suggestion to.
You think it was a suggestion, or you think it was just kind of an observation?
Oh yeah, maybe it was just an observation, but we have both declined to be combative because we're searching for the same answers, and there's no sense in arguing. I feel like there's enough arguing in the world today, and we want to be a little bit more proactive and productive, I think. Can you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that or at least for me, like when I listen to a show or listen to a podcast or watch any kind of like a sports show, and it's all combative and arguing, like I never really remember what I retained. I just remember listening to the arguing. Yeah. And I think it's more for like entertainment value than it is for like substance. Mm-hmm. And it's just and that's just not really my way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't agree on, but like I'm a huge fan of dissent and like asking questions and holding people accountable and bringing things to your attention, but I'm not necessarily sure that being combative is the best delivery system for that.
Yeah, and to his credit, he didn't say combative, I don't think.
Yeah.
But we did. And I some of those I mean, in a way, there's something good about that because it's sort of this more of a journalistic approach where there's always two sides of the story, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to choose your side. But you and I have, I think been on a journey of, just, yeah, like we were saying, it's just sort of finding the right solutions and helping people out. It isn't about, going one side just for the sake of it all the time. I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever, but it isn't really what I'm interested in giving hours and hours and hours to a podcast where I don't really enjoy it. So
yeah, exactly.
It's like we're just kind of we're just trying to dole out some good stuff, and I think that's everyone else's decision. It's food for thought based on our experiences, and a lot of our experiences have been similar experiences. So I think that doesn't mean we're not objective.
Yeah, but just means that we're mostly of like mind, and there's a certain way we like to deliver our content. So I think we should stick with it.
Yeah, and it's just not right, off the cuff kind of blabber. Or yes, it is really, but it is from me anyway. I go with yeah. I'm sure you're not always in stride with the things that I'm prescribing, which are bizarre. As somebody pointed out in our Crushing Iron forum, one of their favorite lines is, "Oh, I have a theory." I have a theory about that.
From Mike Durali, which we could get a shirt like that for sure. I have a theory. So you want to dive into little RESPECT today?
Yeah, let's do it.
What was I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name that brought kind of the crux of this topic to the forefront. I'm gonna try to look it up real quick.
Yeah, it was. Wasn't it based on our state of triathlon, and we were kind of hammering on the one and doners, and is that sort of where the genesis of it, right?
I don't think we hammered on the one and doners, but
no, we didn't. We just you had a good point to that.
I think that it was the disparaging of the one and doners, I guess, or the bucket listers, that we did, which I don't think we do. And you brought up a great, topic of it's about respecting the sport, and which I believe is also about respecting yourself.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Because you want me to start it off with a zinger?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Here's one of the things that I think about, and I'm pretty compassionate and passive on a lot of things, but sometimes I get, I'm like, it just wakes me up to think, because like if somebody asks you what an Ironman is, what is that? What is it? What do you do in those things? And people invariably will say, well, you swim 2.4 miles, you bike 112, and then you run a marathon. And my question to a lot of people is, do you run a marathon?
True story.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I get it. Do you run a marathon?
Yeah. And I've written about this before, and I don't mean to, like, it's just my perspective from myself. I've done 4 Ironman Louisville. I probably walked between 6 and 8 miles on that course that day. That was a really hot day, and I have a hard time really kind of like counting that one. I do, but it's not a slam dunk in my book, and that's because I feel like I didn't do the race in a way. I mean, if you say you're going to run the marathon, if that's what the sport is, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, that's a fine line.
I know it is.
I think when we talk about respecting the sport, I mean, I think it's more about your intent than it is the execution. Mm-hmm. Because I thought about it earlier today. I was like, I respect people who come from a much more difficult background or lifestyle or limited like athletic achievements in their previous life, and they absolutely bust their butt and put in the time, they put in the work, they're respecting the distance, whatever it may be, and at the same time I think you just kind of respect yourself by not convincing, but by committing to working hard, and have that person do like a 15-hour Ironman than I have for an individual who just kind of whatever, like, I think I can do this, and like puts in minimal training, doesn't take it seriously, and just because they come from a more athletic background are able to reel off a faster time. I think it's like, who do you respect them both as much? Do you respect the one who had a harder time getting to the finish line, or do you respect the faster time? And I think that's it's definitely relative based on the person who's listening to this podcast, what they would respect more, whether the performance achievement or the path and journey from another person. But I think overall, I think it's just about your approach. And are you somebody who's completely buying in, and you're a subscriber, or are you a one-time purchase kind of person who isn't really interested in the sport? You're interested in the event. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference.
And that's the whole thing right there, right? If you're going to one and done it, and then basically walk the entire run, and then come away, acting like you really did I don't know. If you can't get the run done, and there's a lot of people I know, and me included, have struggled, and then you want to get it back. So, you want to kind of dive back in there and do better and get better and work harder on training and or your mental capacity to get through that pain or whatever. That's a different story. But if you're going to go in there and sort of one and done it and bucket list it and walk the whole marathon and then start bragging about it or acting like you're a big Ironman, I don't know. I have a little problem with that, I guess.
Why do you think you have a problem with that?
It's probably my fault because I don't respect myself. Why do I think I have a problem? Well, I mean, I don't like go thinking about it and stuff all the time, but I just, if we're talking about respect the sport, I don't really think that's respecting the sport because it's sort of like, going in a boxing ring and just getting knocked out in 2 seconds or something. You didn't train. You know what I mean?
So is that more respecting the sport or respecting the distance? Yeah. Or the event? Because I think they're both. That's kind of where I have my differences with people. Like, I don't think Ironman is. I think Ironman's more of a business and a brand than it is an event. But I think you have people that go for the event, and that's it. And they sell their bike the next week, or they never ride it again, or they, swear it off and they kind of hang it up, and which I don't necessarily have a problem with. Mm-hmm. I just think that it's definitely not something that contributes. Like I stated in my comment to this individual, was that they're all fine. They're all fine and dandy. But if you're looking for something that's sustainable, a one-time purchase for a global brand isn't necessarily, in my opinion, the best thing for it, or the sport, because they go hand in hand. When people hear triathlon, they think, "Oh, have you done one of those Ironmans?" And then the next question is, "Have you done the one in Hawaii?" And you're like, "No, they're not." There isn't just one, even though the thing is that a lot of people only think there's one because that's the only one they see coverage of, on television, which has helped the sport in the past, but it's not helping anymore, as I think is evidence in the declining numbers. And I think that I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but in my opinion, I think the ITU style of racing is actually becoming really, really, really popular. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming really, really popular with our youth. So, I mean, if you're an American, your Gwen Jorgensen is the one you kind of relate to, and she does Olympic distance, sprint and distance triathlons. And so you see a lot of these junior development, like they want to be like her. And to be honest with you, if you're looking to be a professional athlete, then that's where the money is. The ITU people make so much more money racing than people will in the Ironman circuit. Because a lot of these athletes are, they're sponsored and covered by their national federation and other sponsors, but the short course is becoming, really, really popular.
Well, didn't they design that for TV? Isn't that kind of how that evolved in a way?
ITU?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I don't know that they came up for TV purposes. No, I think they've done a good job putting it on TV.
Well, that's what I meant, but like the design of the loops, like so many loops to keep it kind of relatively within range where people aren't riding off into the sunset. And
well, I think and the nature of the courses and where they have them, they're like downtown cities.
Yeah, right.
And so I think what they haven't done it for TV, they've done a great job making it a spectator-friendly sport. Because if you watch some of these races, I mean, it's insane how many people are there.
Yeah.
But it's great to watch because they're basically watching an open water sprint race from bleachers or from the beach or from wherever, or a walk or whatever. Then you're basically watching like a little bit longer style crit, and where they're going to do sometimes like 6, 8, 12 laps. And then you're going to see a run that could be anywhere from 3 laps to 6 or 9 laps. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's great theater. If you ask me, I would go watch one of those every weekend. If you ask me to go watch an Ironman race, you're like, all right, so I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to spend probably, 14 to 16 hours standing on my feet all day for probably less than 5 minutes of actual FaceTime.
Yeah.
It's just not spectator friendly. People can't get into it. But when they see, something shorter like that, like, oh, I can do this and I can still have a life and I can still, have, other obligations to fulfill. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's more attractive. I just think that that's where, like if they had, and we kind of, I think, touched on this.
Well, isn't Maryland, like, I'm curious about this actually because, and I know we're a little off topic, but so what? It's Maryland. What do they have? Like 4 loops on the run or something like that? Or did they have? I mean, is that even a race? I can't even remember if it's still.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I mean, they've canceled the swim, and then this last year, I think most of the run was underwater, so it was shortened, I believe.
Oh, okay. But I think they had like 4 loops. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim.
Yeah. If you're actually
he was asking for a live call-in show the other day because he's got a lot of beefs with us. No, not beefs.
Oh, that's all right. We could do one with him. He'd no, I mean, actually, one of my favorite races I've ever done was Ironman Arizona, and it was a 1-loop swim, a 3-loop bike, and a 3-loop run.
Yeah.
I actually liked it. Just being unfamiliar with the course, I liked being able to pace myself. And it brought you back into town like right by transition 3 times, which would definitely made it more spectator friendly. Now, that's actually the only race I've ever done where I had no family and friends there, so it didn't really help. But no, I mean, I think that it is about being able to watch it and experience it, and what do you get from it. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the start and the finish line are obviously the most energy filled, pressure cooking type like situations in the whole event, but they happen at 6:30 to 7 a.m. and between 6 p.m. and midnight, or 11 p.m. depending on what race it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, people just don't want to watch that stuff. I mean, even for professional sports now, people don't even want to go to a football game when they could just watch it on their flat screen TV.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I know you got hooked by going and watching one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given I think Louisville is it's not the greatest, but it's, I think, one of the best from a spectator standpoint. And I do think that, in my opinion, it's the best finish in North America.
Yeah, that's debatable, but like, for example, Louisville, that would be so easy for them to make that 3-loop run, and I think that would be more enjoyable for everybody.
That'd be more enjoyable for the athlete for sure, because man, once you go into that bridge and take a right, you're like, oh, I'm going to turn around in a second. No, I'm not. I got 3 more miles. I can't even see them.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And then you got that little ninja style, short little out and back that you totally forget about, and you're like, what? Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Now listen, I think that Wisconsin has a great finish, but I think if you could include the last, I think going inside on 4th Street Louisville is a better experience. But I think if you could connect that last half mile to a mile of going around the Capitol for Wisconsin, it'd be the best one. But for the actual finish, I mean, for somebody who's finishing multiple times and doesn't like to go across the finish line more than once, it's definitely my best bang for the buck.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. You don't respect Wisconsin. I don't know. I'm trying to get us back on the topic.
Yeah,
I don't even know where this topic's going to go, and I feel like I've opened a can of worms. I totally respect people that, everybody that finishes, and I've walked many times. It's just that if you're going to go out and do the race, and it's hard. I think you're right. I think it does come down to respecting the distance a lot of times. I mean, because
can I ask you something? And I think this holds true with me, and I get the sense it kind of holds true with you.
Okay.
Is it that it just irks you when you don't believe, when you see other people, and they kind of poo-poo the distance and do it, and they get through it. They're like, oh, it was just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless of their finish time. And it's not so much what their time was, but it's that you look at them and you think, man, this sport has done so much for me and I know how I approach it, and I know what it means to me. To see you devalue it with just your overall personality and approach to it really kind of ticks me off.
Yeah, I think that is it, you know?
I mean, because I think we could. I'm thinking of a certain person.
I'm not, but
I am.
Okay.
Or somebody that you and I text back and forth with quite frequently. I think I actually sent you a screenshot earlier today.
Okay.
But it's when somebody kind of, you're like, man, like this is something that's really changed my life, and I've put a lot of work into it, and it is part of my lifestyle. And because it's one of those very few sports where you can just kind of walk in, do your thing, and then nothing, and I think it's like, if, for example, it's like taking a whole semester's long class that's really, really hard, and then you go to the end, you take the exam, and you pass, and you feel like, I mean, you put in the work, you put in the time, you studied, and it was a hard exam, and it really was, and you did good in it. And then you see somebody who like skipped class all year and didn't really care, was not one of the favorite people, and then they took it, did well, and they're like, that was pretty easy. That wasn't even that difficult. Mm-hmm. And you're like, what? You're like, yes, it was. I mean, to me, it was. And I think that's just kind of our human nature, is to look at that person, kind of like, I get it that it's not that important. The event itself was important for you to say it, you did it, but it wasn't important for you to actually do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, totally. And it's more like that person going into class and winging it and getting a C and saying
exactly.
Whatever,
Yep.
And I worked my butt off to get, A- or whatever, and all of a sudden, it's no big deal. But it is a big deal, It's hard. Yep. It's hard, man. I turned my life around at age 50, and I went out there and, with your help and a lot of motivation from guys like Jim and Kevin and the Fab Five, and I went sub 12 at 50 years old. And I'm telling you, sub 12 and, 16 hours is a big difference. In retrospect, 16 hours for me, I'm just saying, on that day would have been really easy to pull off, Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think
in context.
Right, in context it does.
It's not easy, and I don't mean that as a slight on anybody that does that. I'm just saying, for me, that's what I do. I gave it my best, and that's how I feel about it. I mean,
so I think it comes down to this, and this is kind of something I've always dealt with in the job that I just had, is that I can see I know personally what it's done for me, and as a coach and as a one of your good friends, I know what it's done for you, and I know what the sport has done for tons of athletes. Mm-hmm. So I know what this not so much the distance, but the sport has done for so many people, that when I look at somebody or I hear somebody or I see somebody post something and they're just kind of poo-pooing it, I'm like, man, or lady, you're just missing the whole point. And you're missing out on an opportunity to grow, because I know how great this is. And it's more, I guess, of a frustration and disappointment than it is irritation. Mm-hmm. Is that, like, you're missing the whole thing. Because I've got athletes that do sprints in Olympics and are trying to do their first marathon, and they aren't going the distance this year. They're not even doing, a full distance event this year. They're just doing events, and they like the way that it's made them feel. And regardless of people's like personal accomplishments and personal like loyalty to the Ironman brand or whatever distance it is, or rock and roll marathon if that's your thing, or the best texts that I get as a coach have literally nothing to do with completing races. Mm-hmm. Zero. The times are literally irrelevant. It's when people say things like, man, like, to think how far I've come since this time last year.
Yes.
Or I never thought I could do something like this. Or I remember when I couldn't swim this far, and now I love to swim, and it's doing this. And then, or, I love having met all these people. or it's made me so much more confident in in other areas of life. Like, that's why I love coaching, because I get to be a part of that relationship, with a healthy relationship with the sport and a person, and then what they get out of it as a result is nothing you will ever find on Athlinks or on some Ironman result sheet. Yes, will the finish line be incredible and a great experience? Absolutely. But is what it will teach you along the way, that's where you get the most value.
Yeah.
And that's what people, in my opinion, or at least for myself, remember the most, is you remember the journey. And so when I see somebody who kind of dismisses and tries to skip the journey just to cross the finish line, I'm like, I get it. Take your medal, go home, go do this with another sport, because on that same course of 2,500, 3,000 other athletes, more than likely there's at least 2,000 of them who are using this to propel themselves into transforming their lives in a way they never could have imagined.
Yeah. And I think it just dawned on me, I mean, as you were saying that, it really, a lot of it comes down to me, for me, is just have a little humility, man. I mean, just I was at, I think it was Ironman Chattanooga last year, spectating, and the night before I stayed in a hotel, and there's a lot of athletes in there, and I was in the lobby, I just finished Wisconsin, and I'm standing in the lobby with this guy.
I know this story. I know it well.
I mean, do you know what I'm saying? This is, I think, the essence of kind of what I'm talking about on a lot of levels is I just did Wisconsin in, I don't know, 11:40 something last year, 11:40. And this guy's, he didn't never, I said, yeah, doing it. He never asked if I did Ironman. He was just kind of in his own thing the night before the race, and he started talking about all his sponsors, and I was like, man, this dude must be legit. And he was just like naming them off, and I say sponsor quote unquote, and I kind of was like, all right, I'm anxious, man, to see what you do. And I'm expecting some kind of blazer, and I mean, he went out. I put him in my Iron Track, and it was just like, I don't even remember, man, but he had a hard time. I mean, he was kind of facing cutoff, I think. I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was just, I don't care, but don't come off like, this is just your bitch, you're going to go out and slay this thing because you've got 6 sponsors. What's the deal? Because that's what you were just talking about in the group, right? Was our group is not going to be about, social media posting, and, you get to say you're sponsored, and what do you even get for that half the time?
No, you get commitments you have to do that you don't want to do, which is like the total, opposite
of sponsoring.
Of what exactly?
Yeah.
And it's like, I want, we've always, this has always been kind of the gist of, why we started to do this anyway, was, it's about how it's almost like, if I ask you, like, for example, this would be a great example of a question, that we could have for our, C26 team, is like, I don't even care what your race results are. Mm-hmm. Instead of listing your race results, tell me what the sport has done for you. That's really all I care, because that's what matters more to me than your podium spot. Because in my opinion, like, it makes people, like, the really, 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 really fast people, you most often find that they're not the most extroverted people when it comes to sharing their stories. Not all the time, but a good portion of the time, at least I've found in my own personal experience, is that I just love the journey. I mean, I guess that's what it comes down to. I love the journey, and people, and this might sound harsh, but people who have never had any, like, turmoil or obstacles or something difficult to get over in their life, I find them completely 100% uninteresting. I know that sounds terrible, but I like people who have gone through it. and probably because I can relate to it. But I think that it does something to you and the fabric of who you are, to have gone through something difficult in life and to have grown and to know what it's like to be transformed. Than the other. And I'll give you an example. This is, I'm probably going to get some hate mail for this, but I was having a coffee with it's all right. I'm okay with that.
I said you can't walk the marathon. I mean, I'm going to get trashed.
You're going to get a lot of hate for that, man. I might have to lock the forum down for the next 72 hours to not get you distracted before the race. But yeah, I was having coffee this morning with a buddy of mine who I haven't seen in 3 or 3.5 years, and we were getting coffee in Brentwood, which is, if you're not from Nashville, the Tennessee area, it's a really, really nice part of town. And he was talking about just the people he sees, and this guy drives up in his probably early 20s, and the most pimped out Maserati you've ever seen in your entire life, and walks in and he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, but you also have people like that around here." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to say the hardest work he's ever done is when he came out of the birth canal." That could be a little harsh, but I don't know. I like the. I guess I find myself more attracted to, and on a friendship level to, and an athlete level, to people who have gone through it, or are going through it, because I know what it's like. And I guess to me, it just makes the journey more rewarding, because your point A to point Z is it's either so much longer, or it's just littered with that many more obstacles to get over, so you appreciate it more. I guess the best example I could give is somebody, I think it was somebody I follow on Twitter, actually, I can't remember who it was, but said it's not, when you get to the top of the mountain, it's not the top that amazes you, it's where you see that you came from that amazes you. Sure. And that's what I think about, the sport in general. And that's why I guess I tend to like people that, respect it, or I guess appreciate's probably a better word for me, is appreciate it as much as I do and have.
Yeah, because the journey for me is far from over. I think maybe that's something to do with the bucket lister too. It's like, I guess, maybe I'm just being too harsh on that. It's fine, I guess, if it just seems, it's so, I guess that's what it is. It's so personal to me, the journey that I took to go after Ironman. It was a life transforming experience, and it continues to be. I'm not out of the woods by any means. I don't think I'll ever be out of the woods. It's still painful to train for. It's still, but I love being around people that continue, like you're saying, to push and respect not only the sport but life, in a sense that there's always something out there that the only way to grow is to learn and experience things. And you can get kind of caught in a trap if you just sort of always gliding through everything and not really giving it your all or whatever. So so with regard to my initial point about the run, I think it's my goal is to get everybody to run the marathon and get their best race ever, because it hurts, and I just want people to do the best they can out there.
There you go. I think that's where you nailed it. It's not so much the walking on the run, it's why don't you prepare to do well the whole time? It's like people who have these jobs where they're like, I'm just going to kind of mail it in, or I don't really like my job, I'm just going to give it half credit or half the effort. And you're like, do you do this in everything you do in life?
Yeah, and you're symbolic. I think that's
I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. It is symbolic of other areas of your life. Do you cut corners? Do you not take things seriously? Do you think you can just get by? Do you train to are you really training for this, or are you just kind of if I can just do this, then I can do that? I'm like, well, whatever happened to like scrap the times? Why don't you just kind of figure out what the best actually is for you. Because I mean, most people give them, like, I'll give you an example. I had an athlete's wife contact me about, it was a very sweet email. She was inquiring about the best way that she could train in order to a way to support her husband when they do this marathon together in November. And she's like, what paces should I be training at? What format should I be doing? Because they're going to be, I think, away from each other for a good portion of the summer. She's going to be in New Zealand with the kids, and he's going to be at home, so she won't be able to train with him. She just wants to know how to train like him so she can support him, which I thought was an outstanding email, and it was pretty cool to read. But what I told her in response, to that kind of like training was that, we are in, at that point, I think it was like late April. And I was like, at this point, I would either be I would either be laying down, standards or expectations he won't be able to accomplish, or I'll be enabling him not to become his very best. So I'm either going to overshoot his time or I'm going to undershoot his time. And that's why I love so much about coaching, and that's why I'm such a big person of like not setting expectations so early. It's like, why not just figure out, like, I don't think nobody knows, in my opinion, the best they can really be until they actually become it. And so to kind of put that weight and expectation, on yourself, I think is just, it's just unfair. And you usually create a ceiling that you could far, far surpass. If your goal was just simply to be the best and to do the best that you possibly can, I think that you would amaze yourself. Yeah.
I cannot argue with that. I mean, and finding your why, back to one of our earliest podcasts.
Yeah.
Because that is, you can find your why in not only in why you're in the sport, but why in your race. Find your reasons to do the best you can at all times. And I don't know. I think that as we go forward, we just do the best we can. I like what we're doing in the closed group. A lot of good, supportive people that I really do think want to be the best they can. For me, those are the magnetic people that respect not only the race but the life, and the process of it. So you can take
totally
that
agree.
where you want to go.
I think it's a great place to end it.
Okay, I respect that.
Anything else before we say goodbye? And the next one will be from Chattanooga.
Yeah, we're loading up the car for Chattanooga tomorrow. I hope you southeastern people can drive over and catch us on Saturday and Sunday out there on the lawn, hanging out. I'll be racing on Sunday, but we'll hang out afterwards. And that's probably when we're going to do the podcast, right?
Yep.
Sunday after the race. And
we may just do like an open mic night.
Open mic, yeah. Pass it around.
Yeah, just pass it around, and you could air your grievances or share your support, whatever you want to do.
Live, very condensed race reports from
race
analyses. And I'll be. I was going to ask you, how many heavyweight fighters you think stay in the same room before a fight?
3.
3. No, the Crushing Iron War. Corey and I are going to be rooming, so he's already said he's not going to pre-race dinner with me.
Yeah, you guys are the worst people to room together, to get anywhere together. He's much better off rooming with me. I'm punctual. I get there early. I'm not. I don't like to wait around. And I think his highest heart rate for the race is like the morning of, when he's waiting for you to come down to get to transition. I think he just like boils it over.
But that's why I need him there, so I can get to the start line.
He's the yin to your yang. So if you see old CC, aka Corey Coggins at Chatting 73, just tell him to chill out and stick around. That's all you need to say to him. Chill out, stick around.
Stick around.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you see him after the race, it's a big day for you. I don't know if I've ever seen him right after, or more than an hour after the race.
It's like a unicorn. If you could spot, I'll give $100 to anybody who can spot CC the day after a race. Not CC himself. You don't qualify. But dude, I forgot to tell you.
What?
Because I was about to mention, to make sure we got another review on iTunes this week. So I want to thank you very much for that. Keep those coming. We love everybody that's in our closed Facebook group. We're at 99, so we'll be at 100 strong soon. And then if you could please make your way over to the Crushing Iron Facebook page and like that. We promise to update it with more content here shortly. But I was scrolling through our iTunes review, and guess what happened?
Uh-oh. More bad publicity for the Dogcast?
No, he upped it from a 1 to a 2.
He did?
Yep, or somebody did. Somebody spammed or hacked him. I mean, I can't either confirm or deny that was me. But
you know how it is, man. You know, a lot of times
I went for a 1-star to a 2 stars, based on his hate and despise for the Dogcast.
Well, you know how that goes, man. A lot of times, one of my best friends, I almost got in a fight with him the first time I met him, and now we're really tight. So I think, over time, some of the best friends can be made with
I think we check back in a year from now and it'll be like a 5-star review.
Yeah, that's very possible if we keep going. And
who hates the Dogcast? Can't create any content, blames listeners.
Hey, this is our 56th podcast, so thanks everyone for listening. It's seemingly picking up steam in a good way here.
Yeah, we've had a great past few days, and they definitely got to thank. We can only thank our subscribers and our listeners for doing that. So I do think that we need to. I would love to hear from the Crushing Iron community on this one. If I think we should probably start planning out way ahead our 100th episode, and have like just a knockout awesome guest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
we can start working that. We've got 40.
So if you have any recommendations, let us know. We've got about 40, so we got about 20 weeks left. So use your power of opinion and voice and let it be heard, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, that sounds really.
Ultimately, if we don't like him, we're not going to choose him. But still, you could, makes you feel good to be part of the process.
Yeah, or her.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we are actually having a meeting tomorrow, you and I, about
lunchtime.
Future planning for Crushing Iron stuff. So if anybody wants to see anything in particular from the website, from the podcast, videos, all that sorts of stuff, let us know, because we're putting it together. Coach is in town, and we're going to start blowing it up.
That's it, man.
Okay.
All right, dude. I'll check you later.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you.
See you, man.